Hello and welcome everybody to this afternoon session. I'm sure you're all tired as I am. It's been a fantastic conference so far. Delighted to have you join us, and really the title of our session is Mission Impossible, Developing Graduate Resilience and Wellbeing Skills for Future Workplace Leaders. As the title suggests, impossible mission. Well, time will tell, and you can be the judge of that as we go through this presentation with you today. Can I introduce myself? I'm Christine Wightman, and I'm an Associate Head in the Faculty of the Ulster Business School as part of the Ulster University in Northern Ireland. I'm joined here with my colleague Nikki McQuillan, who's a lecturer in the Ulster Business School, and Cathy, who is an employability and careers consultant in the Ulster University. And the three of us have been significantly involved and responsible for the design and development and delivery of this project. The project is referred to as the Graduate Resilience Project. It was a name that we coined for it, and what I would like to then give you as an outline of the presentation. So personally, I'm going to give you background, justification and rationale, and the aim of our whole project, along with then what we saw to be a crucial sort of design feature of the project, and that's that pedagogic approach that we adopted. Some information as to where we have journey to in terms of the delivery and where we're at in terms of the delivery of these graduate resilience workshops within the Ulster University. And I'm going to hand over to Nikki, who's going to then cover aspects specific to the workshop designs, and along with then the evaluative impact of our project to date and the feedback that we have obtained then from the students who have gone through the project along with others. And then finally Cathy's going to do a synopsis on some of the challenges and what we see to be the next steps going forward. To set the scene and really put this into context, I suppose one of the overarching aspects was our own strategies. And at Ulster University, we had a very, very strong learning and teaching strategy that was very much focused on the need to embed employability skills within the curriculum. And that aligned to then our own employability strategy, and that became the bedrock of which then we built this whole project around this need to actually prepare our students and develop their skills for the workplace. And some of the key skills that were then coming out from the literature were those in and around about, adaptability, dealing with change, having the confidence to be able to actually, deal with that whole transitioning process into the dynamic and challenging world of work, alongside then the focus really being the resilience and the building and the development of their resilience, so that in order they could be then future-proofed and that they could be ready for the world of work, and that they can embrace obviously the whole challenges that they could face within the dynamic world of work. That was all then sort of premised against the fact that what McIntosh and Shaw are saying, we need to sort of interface the learning environment and bring the real context of the world of work into that learning environment. And in order to do that, then we saw we had to then take an emancipatory pedagogic approach. So this is where basically we are giving these tools and these techniques to the students as enablers. We're getting them to think differently, we're getting them to behave differently, and we're enabling them to actually then respond to these very difficult sort of, much more challenging and stressful situations that they could face. And there's no doubt about it. I mean, the literature alongside really the need to sort of prepare our students for the world of work is now peppered with the worrying concerns in terms of student health and well-being, and the increased challenges that students are experiencing in terms of their mental health and their well-being. And there's no doubt that the research is coming through that the pandemic has exacerbated that even further. So, consequently, that's where, educationalists and policymakers and certainly the higher educational sector are very much becoming mindful themselves of the need to build and develop interventions that are successfully trying to tackle and resolve some of these challenges and these issues that are going on within the HE, because we really want to prepare our students. We want to make them work ready, and we want to make them to be able to have the confidence to grow. And that ultimately then took us then to what we saw to be, if I can get my little cursor to work for me on this screen, yeah, our project aim. And as I say, it really was then based around the idea that we saw emancipatory pedagogy as very, very supportive in transforming then the students and supporting the students in this endeavour, and that we wanted really, as part of this transitioning workshops, we wanted to develop their understanding of resilience and harness the need to look after their personal well-being, to become much more self-aware and reflect on that self-awareness, and to be then sort of developing themselves in a professional capacity so that they were ready for the world of work. We saw then really three critical pedagogic aspects then coming into play here. We saw the fact that resilience can be nurtured, it can be developed, and you can actually then take approaches in terms of your pedagogy to build that into the curriculum, so that the students become a much more sort of self-sufficient and aware and capable to cope and develop themselves in terms of resilience and their own mindfulness and well-being. The emancipatory pedagogy, that empowers the students. So that whole transformative aspect of the consciousness and being able to sort of then self-direct themselves so that they are much more capable, as I say, to develop their own approaches, their own thinking, their own feelings, their emotions. I suppose that's really what it's saying is, look, take a look at yourselves and actually self-reflect and actually react then and respond differently as you face various contexts and various scenarios around you. And that emancipatory pedagogy really is then you're living the learning and you're reflecting on it, and doing that within then a classroom context we saw as crucial. We recognise we can do this on our own. We then employed, as academics and obviously alongside our key employer building careers, we worked closely with outside experts who brought then to the whole development stage this whole co-creation of really what we saw to be a very valuable curriculum. And that took then on board coaches, experts, leadership, professional mindfulness expertise, and that saw us then building a curriculum in around that and a set of workshops that were very, very useful. We've been now involved in designing and developing and piloting and delivering the graduate transitions workshops essentially for 3 years. This is our third year, and it's evolved and it's grown, and it's very much being learning as well by doing. And as a key ingredient for this was finding a final year module and getting it into that module. It had to be a compulsory module, and it had to then be very much embedded within that module as part of the whole curriculum design. That meant we then captured all the final years. We saw that then it needed to be very intensive as well. So the original iteration, when we were able to do face-to-face, were 2 3-hour workshops over two weeks. However, we recognised then to take that to the online platform, we need to just sort of collapse it down a little bit, front loaded with pre-workshop and post-workshop materials and activities, but that the actual workshops themselves then were very, again, engaging, interactive, participative, and valuable, for the students. And that took the form of 45 minutes, a break, and 45 minutes. We piloted the workshops, to say, 3 years ago within our own faculty, and we piloted it with 100 students. And one of the programs that undertook to then embrace this was my own business studies program. Then we built upon that. We, modified and through feedback, etc. We sort of did a little bit of sort of tailorizing. And in 1920, we built that out across then 3 out of the 4 faculties, and 409 students actually went through the workshops. Pandemic came along, and in 2021, we, as I say, spent last summer revisiting all our materials, etc., resources, and we modified it. And as I say, 350 students now went through the program online. We work with module coordinators; they're key. So the person who owns that module that this has been embedded in, that they've got the relationship with the students. So that was key. That was very, very important. It's worked across other faculties. Very much transferable, very much scalable, and it's adaptable to any discipline in the HAE. And it's worked on the online delivery platforms that we are utilising with all the tools and breakout rooms, etc. So I'm going to hand over to Nikki, because we did undertake then quite an array of feedback, and Nikki's going to start and look at really the workshop designs and content, and then provides details on the feedback.
Thanks very much, Christine. Just to go on to the next slide for me. Yes, so Christine mentioned there how it was embedded into the module. So one of my modules in final year is leadership and professional development. So we actually took 2 weeks out of that 12-week delivery just to help you understand where it fitted in. It was very different to what they were being taught with regards to leadership theory the rest of the 10 weeks. So the overarching aim was of the whole of the 2 workshops was to raise awareness of emotional resilience in emerging leaders, but also for entrepreneurs as well, because entrepreneurs don't necessarily just come out of business skills. They also come out of other faculties within the university. So as Christine said, to start off the workshop design, then the first thing we did was, because this was so different to the other learning they were getting the other 10 weeks, we give them some pre-preparation activities, videos, light reading. It wasn't, deep, academic articles. It was really just to try and get them into this professional development idea and getting them ready for the world of work. So the first thing that we did, so I'm going to just drill in more into the how of the actual modules and what we designed, was the first things that we looked at was the impact of stress on their bodies physically. And we actually went into the triune brain theory, which is all about the fight or the fight or flight, and how that can bring fear into you, and from the fear then you have emotions that then react to your behaviors. So it's just having an understanding of that, and the students find that was very different to what they were learning about leadership theory. Then we looked at good and bad stress, because to help them to understand that not all stress is bad. It is, if you want to perform highly like athletes, you need a little bit of adrenaline there. So that was, we did some exercises around that, whiteboard exercises online to get them really engaged in that. Then we looked at the understanding of emotions and developing their self-awareness. And one of the words that we used within that, and some of them I still hear the students say, is about name it and tame it. So name the emotion. And if you can name it, then you can manage it within yourself. It's really getting them, this emancipatory pedagogy was really getting to focus themselves as beings. That's what we were trying to do. And this also helped to raise their self-awareness. Then we looked at the effects of emotions on resilience levels. So we took how we did that was we had a 10-minute clip from a movie, a popular movie, and it was about a leader and a subordinate and how they were being treated in an interview situation. Then we asked them afterwards, how did the leader feel and how did the subordinate feel, or the applicant for the job feel? And they found that was really good because it was real life and they could really feed back. So it's really rooted in feelings and behaviors, is really trying to get them into understanding that. And then the other thing we worked really hard during this time was we introduced them to breathing exercises, which they all found very strange, but they absolutely loved it. So actually, even online, we got them to stand up and do their breathing exercises and various exercises to get them really engaged in that. But capturing all of this here, this whole workshop 1 was these 6 words that we got them to leave with, because we wanted them to leave with tools and techniques. So if they find themselves in a really stressful situation, it was take stock, take control, and then take action. And whenever they, it's just giving them those tools, those thought processes whenever they find themselves in stressful situations, not only when they were doing their finals, but also, whenever they leave to enter into the workplace. So then we finished the workshop design of the first week, and then we gave them more exercises and reading to really get them ready for the second workshop. And then, so during that, the first thing we did, which shocked them all, was we started with Tai Chi, got them up on their feet, really getting them to learn these mindfulness and calming exercises that they can do to really, get them into that meditation and how important that is for their well-being. And they all loved it. And they all, well, we didn't know if they're standing up, but certainly the feedback was positive. Then we looked at the growth and the fixed mindset. We had a diagnostics tool that they would often did on their own. We didn't have to share with the rest of the class. discuss what they got in that, but it was just for them to reflect whether or not they had a fixed or a growth mindset. Then we looked at the benefits of the growth mindset in that particular workshop. Then we moved on to looking at the link between emotional intelligence and resilience. And this was really interesting because we looked at perception and reality within themselves, but also perception and reality of maybe the people who they're leading. So you can see how this fits into leadership or an entrepreneurship module. Then we did appreciate the importance of mindfulness, where we did box breathing exercise, a different type of breathing exercise that they could sit and do on the bus. And also another one called doing. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but look it up on the internet. Doing, it's a mindfulness exercise, and we did that with them as well. We finished off by bringing them all together as a group, and we did a Google case video. Now, when we were doing them face-to-face, the workshops, it was a Lego activity, which was fantastic. But of course, then we had to be innovative. I think, how are we going to do this online and really transfer the learning that we wanted and the engagement we wanted to get? So we did this group activity on, leading effective teams. So then we finished that off then with just a short session at the end looking at gratitude and being gratefulness and kindness, and they really enjoyed that. And it was an exercise where they had to sort of write down 3 things that they're grateful for on that day, and just writing that down as a positive for them, and just and then finished off at the end of the 2 workshops again with going back to our strapline, which was take stock, take control, and take action for yourselves. So that was really sort of, it was a quick jumping in there to kind of tell you what we did in actual fact with the. So then moving on then to looking at the evaluations. Well, there was 350 students did this online across Ulster University last year, across all faculties. And I just want to draw your attention there to question 2. So we did a pre-workshop survey, and then we did a post-workshop survey. So the pre-survey, we asked them the question, I know the difference between good and bad stress in relation to my performance. 45% said they did know what that was, but afterwards, 89%. So you can see the figures there for yourself. Question 4, I appreciate the techniques designed to enhance personal resilience and well-being. It jumped from 31 to 66. There was a 35% learning gain there. But as I said, we don't profess to say that these workshops are going to make them more resilient. We're just raising their awareness of themselves and how they're in control of their emotional resilience. Moving on then to the second workshop, the feedback we got, just draw your attention, question 1 there. I understand the difference between a fixed and a growth mindset. 45% said they understood what that was beforehand. Afterwards then 98%, so you can see there a learning gain of 43%. And the rest of you can see for yourself there where the learning gains were achieved. But then you'll see that the workshop was helpful. We had 91% of those 350 students said that the workshop was helpful. So that was really positive for us, because it was a very different type of learning and pedagogy that a lot of them had never experienced before. So if we just want then to share with you some of the key learns. So whilst the last evaluations I showed you were the quantitative statistics we gathered through Mentimeter, these were the qualitative feedback. So this is all the students' words that you see in front of you that they put in when they were given the opportunity to feedback what was their key learn from the session. So things like understanding coping strategies, how to calm down. A lot of them really loved that aspect. Benefits of a growth mindset and the power of positivity. There was another aspect. We looked at failure and feeding forward, and failure and what it likes to feel, but that's okay. It's a learning opportunity to change their mindset about that. Realizing that failure is the key to success. Different perspectives, looking at getting into other people's shoes and seeing things from other people's perspective, which is a really interesting for young people of that age group to think about that. And then these breathing exercises, they find that very, very valuable. With regards to the focus groups, again, it illuminated some different highlights. Obviously, as a group, maybe more comfortable to kind of say how they really felt. Just you can see in bold there in the first bubble, top left, about being stressed. That sometimes whenever they're young and they think they're going to be stressed forever, but they need to understand that it's just it'll pass, and it's just a matter of managing it. I think there that changing their mindset my mindset has completely changed. An important aspect as well that we wanted to achieve achieve when we set out to design this. Then realizing that they're the problem sometimes in a conflict situation. It's about listening, and you're not always right either, which I can relate to, as I have 3 children in their 20s, so I've come through that. And then finally, naturally, it's easy to blame others when things go wrong. There's a stressful situation. But this is where the leadership bit comes in. It's about understanding what other people are thinking and why they're behaving the way they're doing. So just getting them to stand in the shoes of a leader and look at their teams and think, why are you behaving that way? And not just being judgmental on that, but actually thinking, what can I do here? How do I need to behave in this scenario myself whenever I graduate? So that really finishes that. I'm going to hand over now to Cathy now, who's going to take you through the challenges.
Great, thank you. I mean, as you can imagine, with a project such as this, there were always going to be challenges anyway. So through the first 2 years, we were all on campus, and these were pilots. We were adapting them, we were making them better. But, you know, we would come up against a number of different issues. You know, when you consider how a lot of academic staff like to teach the chalk and talk, the emancipatory learning it really pushes, you know, the person delivering out of their comfort zone. And of course, these workshops would only work if they are co-delivered with the module coordinator who knows the student, and either Nikki, Christine, or myself, or someone else from the employability and careers team. Also, on an ongoing basis, on campus, off campus, whatever, we know all about student apathy and disengagement, and that, you know, don't know what they don't know. And the students that we need to see most often don't turn up to class. And if anything is even positively optional, then students will choose not to go. And those are the students that actually need this kind of training the most. Then there's the old, is this on the exam? Which is why there's a percentage of the module assessment from these 2 workshops tied into the overall module. Also, we always have to be very aware of sensitivity to subject area of mental health and well-being. I mean, a quarter of any population at any one time has a diagnosis of an actual, you know, mental illness. So, you know, we had to really work very closely with our student well-being team when we were devising and redoing these workshops. We had, of course, co-created this with a trauma and mindfulness coach, but we did find as time went on the need to involve our own student health and well-being more and more closely. And certainly when COVID hit and this was going to be in an online environment, we know that the students, they were hit very, very hard. Therefore, it was going to be even more of a challenge to deliver this kind of workshop in a virtual world. I mean, the emancipatory pedagogy, when you think about how practical and very physical our workshops were and a lot of the activities, how do you translate that online? The students, you can't see them. How do you know if they're coping? So as I say, it was so important to realise that we are not counsellors. And an online learning environment, we really need to work very closely with the student wellbeing team. So if we go on to the next slide. Next steps then. So we're considering what we can do and taking the learning from our online version as well as the physical version of these resilience workshops. Within employability and careers, we have since developed level 4 and level 5 sessions on personal resilience and career resilience. They were just trialled in the past year and embedded into various modules. They weren't as robust as the graduate transitions project, which, as you see, is 2 full weeks of a module. These are more standalone that can be put into any module of an hour and a half for 1 week. But we'd like to further explore opportunities for embedding resilience into the curriculum, across the curriculum. We would like to look at more champions within all faculties to work with employability and careers to further promote and widen levels of adoption and participation. We had fairly high participation rate that last year in the second pilot version in 19 to 20 before COVID hit. And if we are all going to be back on campus, then it would be fantastic to start reaching out to find more faculty champions, because this is very much scalable and not discipline specific. There's also ongoing research doctorate designed to further measure the effectiveness of our intervention called Developing Resilient Skills in Higher Education Students, and that is Christine Wightman, who's here, is working on that. I'm just going to show you then our references. And then what we'll do is, if I could ask everybody to go to Menti, we'd just like to get your final comments as we deal with your questions as well in the chat box.